Okay, sorry about the delay, everybody. Technical difficulties, which happens when you work for a technology company. But we are ready to go, and it's great to see you all again. Welcome to Two Protons in Our Cloud. It's a weekly live dialogue connecting the industry experts to you. As always, I'm Adrienne Kreft, one of your hosts and a technical evangelist for HP Helion.
Hi, and I'm Sujay Maheshwari, your second host, and I'm a dev evangelist at HP Helion. Welcome.
We are in episode 5. We're working nonstop to keep you updated on what's happening in the cloud space, and today we have something a little different. Nigel Wright, our colleague hailing all the way from New Zealand, will be walking us through continuous delivery on Cloud Foundry. So, we should acknowledge that yesterday, October 21st, 2015, was a true achievement thanks to Doc Brown. It's the first day Back to the Future is now in the past. The future is today. Time is in flux. And I think I'm really confusing myself.
Well, I think Adrian, Doc Brown really confused everybody, so it's just not you.
Okay, well, although we don't have flying cars, but self-driving ones, and our hoverboards zoom around on 2 wheels, we do have self-tying laces. According to Nike, the future is now.
Yeah, Nike produced the first pair of self-lacing shoes and sent the first pair to Michael J. Fox. The technology will hopefully benefit not only athletes but people living with neurological diseases and, of course, the elderly. The 2015 Nike shoe is a limited edition release and available at auctions, with proceeds benefiting the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's disease. Thank you, Nike.
Yeah, pretty cool. And the White House jumped on board with Back to the Future Day, and they hosted a series of online conversations with innovators around the country yesterday. They actually asked you to think about the world you want to live in 30 years from now.
Wow, time travel to the future of autonomous vehicles, women in STEM fields, and even achievements in bioengineering. Interesting times and conversations from participants around the world, isn't it, Adrian?
Yeah, definitely. And CJ, where do you want to be 30 years from now?
Wow. Maybe I want the capability to fly like in few hours to New Zealand, meet Nigel, do the show, and come back before my boss asks, where are you, in 30. So I think maybe that should be 30 years from now.
Is your boss or your wife?
Well, both actually.
So in more technology news, Pivotal and Mercedes-Benz have joined forces to develop a new connected car app. So effectively, the app would give drivers real-time information about the status of their car's vitals, like oil, water, gas, or petrol, depending on where you are in the world, and you get it directly to your smartphones. So you can even remotely control everything in the car, like locks, heat, navigation, and pretty much I think our phones are going to keep getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I wish I can sit on my phone and it can travel. I don't need another car, but that's a different thing. So the app is being developed on Pivotal's Cloud Foundry, and Mercedes-Benz developers are digging into the possibilities of this modern agile software development platform.
Yeah, and as you can see in the news, the biggest players are becoming more open to open source. Funny joke I just made. But Microsoft is looking to open source to power containerization. So, Sujay, since episode 3, we did talk about containers taking over the world. Why do you think this is important?
Yeah, I think now the containers have really taken over the world. So, this brings developers new level of app portability and agility, and to give microservices-based delivery of software. A collaboration with Mesosphere is key to this strategy, right? Microsoft stated that Azure Container Services users open source components from Mesosphere offering. So something to look out for.
Definitely. And we do want to give a shout out to Stormy Peters at the Cloud Foundry Foundation, whom will be joining in Berlin very shortly. She mentioned on her Tuesday morning edition of Cloud Foundry After Dark that they are digging in how to become Cloud Foundry certified, not only for members of cloudfoundry.org, but also a resume booster for those looking to be certified on an individual level. So good news for you, Sujay.
Yeah, I'm definitely updating my resume with that now.
All right.
And the Cloud Foundry committee has a new logo. The Cloud Foundry Ninja Rabbit. I love rabbits. The Ninja Rabbit even has its own
then what happens is I break down all the costs, right? Over a 2-year period, I'm saying, right, my servers, and so just giving it a quick log based on some feedback I had earlier, I'm basically saying, review the software.
Sujay, I think we lost you on a freeze there. Nigel, are you still with us?
I am absolutely still here. I just thought he was happy. He just looked so
I
happy
know,
there.
he looked excited. As we said, we are dealing with, I don't know, maybe it's cloudy today in Seattle. But Sujay, I apologize. Can you repeat this really awesome news about the Ninja Rabbit?
Yeah, sure. So the Cloud Foundry committee has a new logo, right? The logo, the Cloud Foundry Ninja Rabbit. So the Ninja Rabbit has its own hashtag now. They are running a competition to get a name to the Ninja.
Of you who celebrate. But keeping on this topic, let's move into our next segment, diving into continuous delivery on Cloud Foundry. Our guest to help us figure it all out is Nigel Wright. So Nigel is based in Auckland, New Zealand. He works within the HP Helion Cloud team as a cloud technologist and is a newly awarded HP Helion MVP. So congrats to you. IT evangelist, and he's focused on innovation, using software development tools, data analysis, and of course, tinkering with cloud native apps. So thank you, Nigel, for joining us today.
No
give you a
worries.
moment. Yeah, hey, and good morning. So tell us a little bit about what gets you excited about your current role.
What gets me excited about my current role? That's really interesting because I talk to a lot of people in my current role. A lot of customers doing some really interesting things. So what I really love is going in and talking to kind of small companies, talking to the development staff, and hearing what they're doing. Because a lot of the times they're doing some really crazy stuff that you wouldn't expect a small company in New Zealand to be doing. Like a lot of people doing some really interesting things with kind of financial transactions, payment alternatives and things like that. It's a real shock sometimes. You go into a small company and suddenly you're like, wow, what are you guys doing? It's kind of revolutionary, and that happens on sort of a weekly basis for me. And so that's really what makes me stoked about doing my job is all that stuff, all that kind of innovation that's happening out there. That's
and
cool.
it changes all the time. So I guess
Absolutely.
in a nutshell, you're all about the cloud, developers, and data. And our last few episodes have gone through an intro to Cloud Foundry and actually the capabilities of HP Helion Development Platform. And now that the audience has gone through those tutorials, heard directly from experts, we want to look at the next step. And how do you think Cloud Foundry can integrate with other tools in their software development pipeline?
Yeah, well, that's a really awesome question. That the good thing about Cloud Foundry and the Helion Development Platform is that it's a really natural anchor point for a software development pipeline. It's not a matter of dropping in this tool and then having a closed kind of pipeline that only feeds into this tool and things like that. That's not the case. So all the APIs are open. There's plugins available for Cloud Foundry for Jenkins, a really popular CI server. And essentially, you can just drop it into any CI/CD pipeline. So it's continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline, which is awesome. It's really powerful, and that's I think the what I'm going to show you actually is that working and how easy it is to kind of set up, which is pretty awesome because you think something like this, oh, okay, setting up a CI/CD pipeline, that's going to take me at least a week or something to do. But you can set up a functioning pipeline within 15 minutes, as I will hopefully show you, providing things don't go wrong. So I can get stuck into that now and start showing you guys how that works.
Let's get started.
Right, cool. So the main thing we've got here, there's a few components to this, right? So obviously we need a CI server, a continuous integration server. I'm using Jenkins for this. Jenkins is probably the most popular CI server out there. And what that does is it actually builds your artifacts for you, it runs your tests against your software, and it has the capacity to even deploy that software and make it available for deployment.
Awesome. And as you're sharing your screen, Nigel, if you can kind of talk, for the benefit of our audience, why is CI/CD so important? And kind of what have we been doing until now?
Right, okay. That's the question, isn't it? That's the key question. Well, I'll answer it by saying, what have we been doing until now, right? So traditionally with a kind of a large company with a lot of developers working on a shared code base, you can get into all kinds of problems. Say, for example, me, you, and Sujay are working on an application. Sujay is working on a widget. You're working on the front end, and I'm working on another component, the back end, the database. Now, you might be doing your work, and Sujay might be doing his work. Independently of me, I'm working on my own local repository. I'm making a lot of changes, and I eventually check that into the code. Now, those changes have actually negatively impacted you and Sujay's work. Maybe your work isn't working anymore because of that. So you have to go through what's called integration hell, figuring out what's changed in the code base and how to kind of integrate your work into that. That's sort of what's been happening in the past, and that's a really, really troublesome process. And just the fact of actually fixing those kind of differences in the code base and merging them all together, that can take longer than actually writing the code, which is nuts. And so the way to address that is by checking your code in more often. Continuous integration is all about that. So as soon as your code's checked into the repository, it'll actually trigger a build within the Jenkins server and make those artifacts available so that everyone's continuously making those commits and making that code base essentially the same. So that kind of takes away that kind of integration hell layer, which is awesome. So
I agree.
It's a really powerful tool for developers and for large development teams and small development teams. So what we've got here, and the screen is constantly going to be refreshing, so apologies for that, is Jenkins. So this is the continuous integration server. You'll see here I've got some projects set up. I've got one project set up, which is my business critical application called Pac-Man. It's a very important application for me. I'm very passionate about it. So we can actually have a look at what's going on in this project. You see, I've set up a couple of things here. I've set up some Slack notifications, so it'll ping Slack for me and tell me that a build started or a build's failed or a build succeeded, so that when you're working in these kind of distributed teams, you get notifications about exactly what's going on, which is cool. And you'll see here I've actually tied it to a BitBucket repository. This is my Pac-Man repository. So basically, whenever you do a commit to that repository, Jenkins will see the change and actually start its build process. And as we scroll down a bit further, we've got some post-build actions. So this is what happens after the artifacts are kind of created. And here you see I've got a push to Cloud Foundry post-build action, which is awesome. So what I'm doing is I'm actually deploying straight to Helion Development Platform. This could be to Cloud Foundry, but I'm just pushing it to my own little instance here. And that's essentially it, and it'll fire off a Slack notification as well. So this is a zero downtime deployment, which is awesome. I just kind of want to touch on just a slight technical kind of definition here. So we've got CI/CD, right? Continuous integration, continuous deployment, or is it continuous delivery? So they're two slightly different things, and delivery means that your application is ready to be deployed whenever you want, which is cool. And deployment will actually take that a step further and deploy straight to production. And that's what I'm doing here. So I'm doing sort of a continuous deployment pipeline, which is cool. So let's actually make a change. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my console here, my giant font. And so let's have a look. Great, all my files are there, fantastic. Now I've been told that the Pac-Man game is actually too hard by a product manager. They want me to change that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to make Pac-Man even easier. This is the code that runs Pac-Man. It's just a JavaScript file, and here's the actual map that defines what the game looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this, and I'm going to go ahead and make it incredibly easy. All the ones are actually to replace all the biscuits with power pills. because, you know, I can't play Pac-Man because I'm an idiot, clearly. So I have to make it incredibly easy for myself. Here we go. And I can actually go ahead and paste that into my code. Just like that. So I've made the change. I'll save that. And then I can go through the normal kind of git commit process. So I'll just make sure that my, oops, helps if I can actually type. I'm not sure statsu is a real command. There we go, cool. I'll add that to my local repository. I'll do a little commit here.
You should say in the message, this is for my manager to make it easy, not for me.
Good point, CJ, good point. Cool. Great, that's done. And now I'll actually push it up to the BitBucket repository, to the master branch. And all going well, this will work. I say all going well because I'm confident in my own abilities, but BitBucket's actually been going up and down this morning, so we'll see what happens here. And we'll continue to see what happens here.
So while that's happening, I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
I want to put the password right, and then maybe I can ask.
Yeah. Okay, go for it.
So how do you personally evaluate or figure out what frameworks to use? I mean, do you read forums, places like Quora, or do you download every single framework, or do you talk to your colleagues? How can I, as a developer, come to know about all this cool stuff which is there?
It's kind of a combination of all of those, right? For me myself, what I do is if I'm making an application, or I've got an idea for an app and I start coding, basically it comes down to what kind of libraries do I need for that application. I'll do a bit of Googling around to find out libraries. There's a lot of kind of packages already created for a lot of different functions, so I'll grab some of those, and that kind of leads me on to frameworks as well. So plugins kind of leads me onto a framework discussion, and then I have a look at what kind of frameworks are available for my application, whether it's a single page app or anything like that. And that leads me to kind of evaluating some of the most common, the most popular sort of frameworks. It sort of leads on to me like that. And so with single page apps, I've been trying Durandal recently, which has been quite cool. And that's me kind of searching myself for this information. But also I talk a lot to my friends who do software development for companies. And they, we have conversations and we talk about, what cool things are out there, and they'll point me towards, great text editors or great plugins or what have you, and I'll download those and give those a try. So yeah, a whole range of those. So what you see here, just putting your attention to Jenkins, you see my Pac-Man builder started flashing, which is cool. So you see here, Pac-Man is actually doing some stuff. What's happened is it's seen a change in that repository and it's triggering the build actions. You see my commit message, which is great. If we go to console output, we should see all the awesome Cloud Foundry stuff happening, which you can. And right down here is the most important bit: finished, success. Yay. So, it's always good to see a success. So I'll go into my Helion Development Platform, my Cloud Foundry platform here, and you can see all my applications that I've deployed here. And you'll see Pac-Man sitting here as a started state, which is good. So I can actually drill into that, and if I go to view application, all going well. Maybe I've completely broken Pac-Man. Oh no, I haven't. Look at that. Look how easy Pac-Man is.
Yep. Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
And basically, I will not lose. So yeah, so the change has been made to Pac-Man there, and I can easily continue to do that. So any change that I make to the source code will actually automatically build and automatically deploy to production with no downtime. That's the key thing, with no downtime. So someone could be playing their game of Pac-Man, happily I could be doing a change, and the next time they launch Pac-Man, the changes will be applied.
Right.
Which is really powerful. Yeah.
And you can apply this to like your maybe staging, or if you have one more environment, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you certainly. What I've done here is kind of a cowboy CI/CD pipeline, in that I'm just going, hey, I don't care about anything, straight to production. Yeah, traditionally what you'd do is you'd stage to, you test, your QA, and then production. And you can do all that with Jenkins. It can deploy to different environments for you.
Right.
So you can actually manually go, yes, okay, this has succeeded in this environment, and it will pass to the next environment. You can do your testing against that, whether that's automated testing or manual testing.
Right.
Another key thing there is with that, I have been relatively lazy with this pipeline in terms of this demo, and that I haven't built any testing in. So I'll probably get a slap on the hand if I was in a real company updating Pac-Man without any unit tests. So you can add a whole variety of different tests within Jenkins to make sure that your code is actually ready for deployment. So it'll do all those kind of functional testing for you. It's a really powerful tool, and it doesn't need a huge environment or a huge enterprise to sort of run it. I run this pipeline when I do hackathons, and it makes things just so much easier because everyone's doing commits, everyone's doing testing, and it'll deploy as well. So you don't have to worry about standing up those kind of web servers and configuring, configuring Tomcat or Nginx or however you say it, and all those web server bits and pieces. You don't have to worry about that. It's all gone, which I like. I like just being able to code and deploy.
Yep, and I think it's a philosophy kind of thing. Also, I've heard so many different platforms and methodologies people have adopted, with what they feel is right. One of the questions which stands out now is how does this evolve in larger teams? What are the complexities which now come in, and what are the challenges you might face in a bigger organization or in larger teams? Any experience there? Anything you want to share with us?
Yeah, that's a pretty big question, right? I think the problem, well, not the problem, the challenges that you have, the larger your team is it drops away from the tools and the process itself, right? When you have a larger team like this and you're looking to implement CI/CD, you're looking to implement automated build pipelines, the problem that you have is it starts turning into a people problem, really. Starts turning into a culture problem. Because you've got a lot of people in a team. Maybe if you've got a large development team, you might have some people who are really leading the charge in terms of thought leadership, and we want to do things in an agile way. We want all these great tools to help us do that. We want to share our code. Great. You also might have the handful of coders in your team that are absolute gurus, but they don't like sharing their code with anybody. They like to keep it under wraps. They like to keep it shared. And then you have people who think that automation is dangerous, and deploying to production multiple times a day could be harmful to your business. So it's a matter of getting all those people together and making them, getting them all on the same page. Not making them, but convincing them that that this is actually the best way forward for the company. So it kind of comes back to a culture thing, I think, rather than tools. Because these things scale out and they scale down to one person doing it. They scale up to huge enterprises doing it. So the tools themselves are robust. It's just the culture change, really, I think. That's the big challenge for large teams.
Well said. I completely agree. Yeah, it's very much a culture thing, and I think that's defines some of the ways how these cooler names like Airbnb or Netflix or Amazon, they are able to push code every few seconds. If it comes to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the great thing about Netflix is if you don't make a push to production on your first day working there, then that's it. You no longer work there, which is incredible. Yeah. Yeah, great.
So sorry, I mean I'll let you continue with the other stuff, and as and when questions come,
Yeah, sure. That's basically it. I've just made another change to the application. I was just going to show that I'm not actually faking this. That this Pac-Man was different before I made these changes. Protons and a Pac-Man. Do the standard push to my repo. So that completes. Should do another deploy, and we should have a new name for the application. I think I just made that password incorrect. Oh no, there you go. Surprise myself sometimes. So we can go back into Jenkins, and eventually this build will kick off again and do the deployment, which is pretty rad. And you'll see here you've got things like the sunny day and the cloudy day and the raining. Shows you the kind of the health of your project, really, in a quick, easy to see way. And the other thing I'll just really quickly show you is the Slack notifications, because it's a really cool thing to know what's going on with your development team rather than having to peer over a cubicle and say, hey, have you done that commit yet? Have you done that build yet? You can actually see what's going on.
And that's never the tone, right? I mean, you were so polite. Hey, have you done your build yet? It's like, hey,
your build's not done.
Beep, 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 beep. Yeah.
Yeah, you got a project manager writing you to get that build done yesterday. So you see here, I've got a whole bunch of entries in my Slack channel from my Helion build bot. He's a good guy, Helion build bot. So you see my Pac-Man build's been started. It started because I, Nigel Wright, made some changes, and it's successfully deployed up to 37 seconds. And see now, this is my new build that I've just done. Started by changes from me, and in about 37 seconds, at a guess, it'll deploy to the deployment platform, which is awesome. So you see my builds ticking along nicely. So I didn't even have to go into Jenkins. I could just have my Slack open with my desktop notifications, and I've got full visibility as to what's happening with my application, which is awesome, I think. Kind of blows my mind how easy some of this stuff is to sort of set up and get kind of your feet wet trying it.
Right, and with the right set of tools, right? What you showed, even like Slack, it can make lives so easy, and all the noise can be filtered out, from the real, communication, so to speak. So yeah, this is pretty lovely.
Yeah. And there we go. I'm pretty much done. My application
success. I saw it.
has been successful. Let's just make sure it's not lying. Hey, there we go. 2 Protons and a Pac-Man.
Can we trademark that?
Yeah, I'll just have to change the Pac-Man to Sujay's face.
I don't mind.
Cool. That's that's basically the old demonstration that I have for you guys, just of how easy it is to get that pipeline up and running. There's a lot of things that kind of I smoothed over in terms of this demonstration, but those were just installing plugins and setting up credentials, which take 10, 15.
And I think you have a blog and you have a more elaborate video which folks can look at, and where to install, where to go, kind of thing. So
absolutely, yep. The blog has a full set of instructions on how to set that up from absolutely zero. So you can go from nothing to CI/CD in 20 minutes. Pretty cool.
Yeah. And we'll drop the blog link into the Hangout, and obviously people can follow you on Twitter.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter.
Yeah. So I mean, I've read through your blog. I think it's great content. This was really fun. It gives kind of a real life application to everything that we've been talking about. So I know I enjoyed myself. Hopefully our audience did too. Sujay, I know you're loving it. So. Anything else, Sujay or Nigel, before we wrap this up?
No, I think the next steps should be really to do this by, on your own laptop kind of thing. So I would definitely be doing it right after this, I know.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely. Give it a try and give me a shout if you enjoyed the content on the blog.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Nigel, for joining us, and so early in the morning.
Yep.
We appreciate it, and we'll definitely be calling you to have you back on here, especially when we dive into the GovHack mentors. Have everybody on here. So thank you again to everybody who joined, and we'll see you next week. We've got an exciting show planned before Sujay and I fly out to Berlin for the Cloud Foundry Summit. And as always, I know, sorry, you're jealous. So we'll be in Berlin. We'll have some bratwurst and beer for you. But we will see you guys next week. Remember to follow us on Twitter at 2Protons. And thank you all.
Yep, and you'll find this video on YouTube. Drop us comments, suggestions if you have, and we can take it from there. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.